here we go again. We are now on chapter 17 in Stephen Erikson's Forge of Darkness, book one of the Carcanus trilogy. Deep Dive continues. This chapter was pretty dark, uh, but it really reflects the horrors of war, and and it contrasts that with a few things in here that we'll be bringing up that I find interesting, and then we get a couple of little lore drops in as well. But we start out with Farron and her brother Rint, and they're wondering what to do with the dead body of their friend who was devoured by Olar Ethel. Yeah, that witch. Um, and they're wondering what to do with his body, whether they should take it back, do rites, do, you know, the different things that the different traditions and rituals that go along with, saying goodbye to the dead. And Farron says the witch stole his soul. It matters not where you leave what's left, or even that you make propitiation. Mother Dark will never receive his soul. Raskan is gone from us. And it's interesting. That's interesting that they would think that Mother Dark actually has this say in where his soul goes, because she's not quite a goddess yet, I don't believe, but she's getting there, I guess. She does seem to have the cachet among certain members of the Tice race. There's the Rint is very mad. He's got a lot of anger. He wants to curse the consort Draconis. He would see his name become a curse amongst all Tice. He hates what's happened to him, what's happened to his friend, what's happened to his sister, and the discussion was interesting. Her now looked on her his faint and vanishing impressions. Uh, yeah, so it's very interesting that that's how these chapter starts, and that's what they're talking about. Then they go a little further here, and Rent is complaining about for too long the highborn lounged, smug and complacent, with the privileges that came with the wielding of power, but nothing of worth was given for free. And he's still he's still bitter. He's still um, letting this eat him up inside. And then they come across some Jellic, those shapeshifters, those what you would call soul taken, and they end up sharing a meal with the Jellic, and they end up having discussions on their own philosophies of life, and mostly about how the Jellic have learned over time. Didn't know right away, but they've learned over time that you need to take care of your prey in order to have more prey another day. Yeah, I like that. And they're complaining about how the Tice are just destroying everything, killing everything. Very environmental theme there. And then we move on to Lieutenant Risp, who is let's see here. Oh, he's the one who feels most guilty about what happened to. No, wait, I'm sorry. Lieutenant Risp is actually a young female lieutenant who's looking to make a name for herself and destroy these deniers. She's been given the orders to make her border swords look like a legion from Draconis' house guard. And they are going to this place where there's some people, and they're going to burn it down. They're going to kill everybody. She thinks that she's This is her first battle, her first engagement, and she thinks that this is her. This is what must be done. Orders are orders and stuff like that. Yeah, that that always ends well, right? Um, so then we move to a unknown character in the tower that is being attacked. She doesn't know it yet. This scholar, Kristen. She but she gives us some interesting tidbits, some lore that she was working on, and she says she understood the first age now. So that gives you a clue now that this what we're witnessing in this series is not the first age. Um, it's another one somewhere along the way, and she says everything began with the Azathane, who walked worlds in the guise of mortals, but were in truth gods. So she's saying this right out. They created, they destroyed, they set things into motion, driven by a curiosity which often waned, leaving to the fates all that followed. They displayed perverse impulses, they viewed one another with indifference or suspicion, yet upon meeting often displayed extraordinary empathy. They held to unwritten laws on sanctity, territorial interest, and liberty, and they played with power as would a child a toy, which is kind of the definition of gods, really. In if you in literature, in mythology, in written words and fantasies, and that's yeah, it's pretty accurate. And then she does note that in this new age they're in, gods were rising from their created peoples, their own gods. So, that is very relevant to later on in the Book of the Fallen. Yeah. Okay, so then the attack happens. Unfortunately, our scholar doesn't make it. And the the Border Swords, things don't go right. People get injured. Some people die that shouldn't have died, and our lieutenant dies. So much for the glory of battle, right? Then we switch to back to Tutor Sagander, who is with another contingent, and Sagander is being rewarded for his information about either Draconis' house guard or what have you. So he's being rewarded for that, and it's interesting because the captain of this legion here is or this troop or whatever it is offering her daughter to him as a reward. But the interesting part is the name of that daughter is Sheltatha Lore, of course. We know her from Reba's Gale. Flying along as a dragon next to Menadori and fighting with her sometimes, I think, if I remember correctly. So Sheltatha Lore becomes something much more than what she is in this book. And she's very young in this book, and but she takes pride in that and says things like, well, my mother treats me like this, but I'll surpass her. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then we go to the guy Narad. He's the one I was thinking about. He's the one who feels guilt about what happened to the bride way back in here, and he was there, and he was a participant, even though he's unwilling, kind of. But he is filled with guilt, and he's thinking back to being a boy, and he says, a boy who had walked into town with his small paw nestled inside someone else's hand. And that boy had known warmth and impossible freedom, with all the sands ahead smooth and clean. Perhaps suckling on the tales of war, he had filled his head with dreams of battle and heroism. But even then, his place in every scene had been unquestioned in its righteousness. Evil belonged to the imagined enemies, for whom viciousness was sweet nectar sipped with wrongful pleasure, and all vengeance awaited those enemies by the toy sword he held. Yeah, so he was the savior in his mind. And of course, that all went to hell um, when he actually joined the Legion and saw the slaughter and rapine that followed. Um, and then they had, because he's part of this troop now that's slaughtering the deniers, and he says, they're telling themselves that none of these dead deniers had ever held hands, ever dreamed of heroic deeds. None of them slept in their mother's arms, or felt the caress of a lover and shivered at realization that fortune favored them by each precious touch. None of them had whispered promises to others or to themselves. None had ever broken them. None had ever wept over a child's future or caught the morning song of a bird hidden in the trees or felt cool water sliding down their throat. Nah, none of them prayed for a better word. They're deniers. Which, of course, is the irony that those are the things that they have to tell themselves in order to commit these foul deeds, and it's absolutely horror, and it's horror in the contrast of growing up wanting to be a hero and growing up and not being a hero, being the villain, really. Uh, and I would go back to Rint and his sister. She abases him for his regret. Says, "Regret is the gristle you can chew forever. Spit it out." That's pretty good advice. Um, yeah, and so Rint is considering, hey, you know what? I need to forget about Dragonus. I need to forget about the stuff that's been bothering me. He's listening to his sister's advice, and he's considering this stuff. He's like, yeah, she's right. I need to move on. But then, well, then the end of the chapter. So we're circling back to these people who we started the chapter with. But the end of the chapter, um, they get the news that they're going to war, that the Border Swords are joining Eurosander's Legion and going to war against House Dragons, and Kakinus, and so it's not good news to suddenly have this life changing moment where you got to let go of something, and then the news comes down that no, not only you cannot let go, but we're going to make it worse. So, yeah, not a happy chapter 17. I mean, uh, fascinating stuff to read, but grim ramifications. And yeah, so with all that said, I hope you are up to this point or further, and um, I hope you found something else in this chapter to bring to my attention, which is probably a lot. All right, and with all that said, please be good to each other. Thank you.